from now, they expect that market to grow
That'll be
times
about
113
15
to
billion pesos.
345. So, that's really sad,
Yes.
Mr. President. I would be so happy if this was the agricultural market, wouldn't you?
On a matter of personal and collective privilege. Before I begin, allow me to show a short video. In my almost 30 years in public service in media, broadcasting, and here in the Senate, walang araw ang lumipas na walang lumapit sa aking programa at opisina tungkol sa problema ng ating mga laborers. Wala o kulang na pasweldo, benepisyo at kontribusyon sa SSS, PhilHealth o Pag-ibig. Itong SSS, PhilHealth at Pag-ibig ay may mga mahalagang benepisyo. Ang SSS ay panangga ng mga empleyado sa mga di inaasahang mga pangyayari at para maibsan ang pinansyal na pangangailangan sa pagtanda ng ating mga kababayan. Ang PhilHealth naman ang inaasahan ng ating mga kababayan tuwing sila ay nagkakasakit. At ang Pag-ibig naman ay nagkakaloob ng mga housing loans, short-term loans, calamity loans at kasangkapan upang makapag-ipon para sa kinabukasan. Kapag itong mga ito ay hindi nabayaran, kawawa ang mga magagawa pag dumating ang panahon na kailangan nila ang mga ito. Tumatanda na walang pensyon o kapag nangangailangan ng pera, walang mahiram sa pag-ibig. Samantala, ang di pagkolekta ng tama ng PhilHealth ay nagiging dahilan kung bakit hindi napapalawak ang serbisyo sa ilalim ng universal healthcare natin. Kaya naman, tuwing may nakakarating sa akin ng mga ganitong reklamo, agad kong tinatawag ang pansin ng mga ito upang singilin ng maayos ang mga employer. Ang pinagtataka ko, bakit pala parati na lang ganito? Parating may mga nakakalusot na kumpanya at kailangan pang lumapit sa aking programa upang maningil sila. Ito ngayon, Mr. President, nagtataka ako sa kwento nitong si Deo Hanito Balbuena o mas kilala sa pangalang Diwata. Ang nag-viral na may-ari ng parisan dito sa tabi lang ng Senado. Siguro lahat tayo alam kung nasaan siya dati. Nakapwesto. Mula sa pagiging palaboy, umasenso siya dahil sa nag-viral na parisan. Pero magmula noon, marami na ang nangyari at tuluyan nang nagsara ang parisan niya at nagpa-declare na siya ng bankruptcy. Itong nakarang linggo, siya inaresto dahil sa hindi pagrehistro at pagbayad ng SSS. Panoorin po natin ang isang maikling video.
Ang nakalagay doon sa warrant, ang complainant ko is SSS. Nakulong ako ng kulang-kulang 24 hours. Ang kaso ko ay hindi ako nag-comply. Tapos yung mga tao ko guys, walang requirements. Pumasok lang sa akin at sa kaarawan. Sa kabila ng pagtulong ko, yun lang naman intention ko, makatulong ako. At siyempre makatulong ako sa ibang tao, lalo sa sarili ko at siyempre sa pamilya ko. Yun lang din palang magiging dahilan para makulong ako. Na sana kung mandatory man to or batas man talaga siya, sana naman tulungan nyo kami na maayos to. Sana naman hindi ito applicable sa kagaya naming nagsusurvive lang, panabla lang para makakain lang ng isang araw.
May pagkakamali talaga si Diwata at pinagsabihan ko po siya. Pero ang pinagtataka niya ay wala naman daw siyang mga empleyado na nagreklamo sa SSS. Dahil daw alam nila ang mga tao niya na maliliit na negosyo lang sila. At may nakarating sa kanya na naghahanap itong SSS na mga pwedeng magreklamo laban sa kanya. Tinuturuan sila paano mag-file ng complaint. Maraming ganito sa ating mga kababayan. Mga maliliit na negosyo na walang sapat na kalaman sa mga business compliance sa ating mga batas. Naalala ko po ang isa pang kaso na nakarating sa akin. Isang 71-year-old na lola na kinulong din dahil hindi sa pagrimata ng SSS contribution, pag-remit ng SSS contribution ng isang kooperatiba. Napag-alaman namin, hindi naman board of director itong si lola at isa lamang siyang miyembro. Ang masama pa ay walang record ng summons na pinadala sa kanya. Inimbestigahan na nangyari at walang malinaw na leadership ang kooperatiba at minalas itong si Lola at siya ang dinawit ng SSS sa kaso. Ang di ko po maintindihan ay bakit ito maliliit na mga negosyo tulad ni Diwata at ni Lola ay kaya naman palang huliin at singilin ng kusa kahit wala nagreklamo na empleyado. Pero libo-libo pa din ang mga magagawa na di natutulungan ang kanilang mga hinaing sa kawalan ng benepisyo. Itong kay Diwata, wala siyang kinaltas at walang nirehistro ng mga tauhan. Pero ang ibang malalaking kumpanya, nakarehistro, nagkaltas, pero binulsa at di nag-remit sa SSS, hindi nakasuhan at hindi nakukulong. Bakit itong mga empleyado kailangan pang lumapit sa akin para makasingil sa kanilang mga employers? Tulad ng mga security agencies na parati na lang nilalapit sa akin. Bakit di sila masingil ng SSS? Pilal to Pag-ibig. Dahil bang may-ari ng mga agencies na ito ay dating mga retired o active military o colonel o general? Bakit ang mga kumpanya ng mga daming empleyado hindi kusang nasisilip at nasisingil? Tulad ng patayan na nabisita ko sa Silang Cavite, 71 na mananahi, walang pasweldo at kontribusyon sa SSS, pero despite that, hindi man lang sila kinasuhan ng SSS at hindi man lang kinulong ang may-ari ng patahian. Mr. President, the SSS has been under scrutiny for uncollected contributions for years. In 2023, the COA flagged uncollected premium contributions from delinquent employers. According to the report, only 4.5 billion pesos was collected in 2023, which is only 4.89% of the 93.7 billion collectibles for that year. In 2025, SSS bragged that uncollected contributions has gone down to 46 billion pesos. 46 billion pesos is not something to be proud of. Kung itong SSS naniniwala na malaga ang Social Security para sa ating mga mamamayan, dapat walang delinquency na ganyang kalaki. Tapos taas pa ng taas ng contribution rate. Di ba naman madidismay ang ating mga manggagawa rito? Para sa SSS, wag itong napapakulong ninyo ang mga small business owners ang i-flex nyo, kundi yung sanang makasingil kayo sa mga malalaking kumpanya. Wag yung mga karinderya at mga parisan lamang ang inyong pinagtutuunan ng pansin. At wag niyong hintayin na ako kulitin kayo na mangolekta. Ang lalaki ng sweldo ng mga board of directors ninyo dyan sa SSS, hundreds of millions of pesos. Ako, wala naman akong sweldo galing sa inyo dyan, pero bakit ako ginagawa niyong collecting agent? Gawin niyo ang trabaho niyo, SSS. Binigyan namin kayo ng kapangyarihan at sa kareklamo ko tungkol sa SSS, tinasa ng penalty sa mga violators ng SSS law para magkangipin ang batas. The Social Security Commission, when a person defaults in the payment of contributions, might collect through court action or by issuing a warrant to the sheriff of any province or city, commanding him to attach and sell any property of the debtor. And violators could be held liable for fines of up to 5 to 20,000 pesos and imprisonment to 6 to 12 years. The same teeth have been given to PhilHealth and Pag-ibig. Non-payment of contributions for PhilHealth is subject to fines of 50 to 100,000 and imprisonment of 6 months to 1 year. While for Pag-ibig, violators could be fined with 1 to 10,000 and imprisonment up to 6 years. Dati po, nung ako po'y broadcaster pa lamang na palagi ko pong kinukul ang attention ng SSS, bakit napakaliit na multa kapag ang isang employer ay nag-violate ng SSS law at hindi po nag-remit sa SSS para sa contribution ng empleyado. Sa Manila, sa hindi, ay 1,000 pesos lamang po ang multa. So dahil sa aking pag-iingay, ngayon ay tinasa nila pero not good enough. Mr. President, the problem is how these entities utilize these enforcement powers. I believe they should wield the sword of justice in the same way as the blindfolded Lady Justice who cannot see who is in front of her. They must apply the law equally to the rich or poor. But as public entities whose very core rely on their collection, I assume that they should focus their energy on those companies or businesses where they can collect more. It's just common sense. SSS as a law enforcement group, they even have a program called RACE, or Run Against Contribution Evaders. Pero bakit parang kulang pa din? There is something wrong with the registration, monitoring, and enforcement system. Do not see what's worse, they do not see the urgency of fixing that system. Napakahirap po para sa ating mga business owners, lalo na para sa ating mga MSMEs na mga mag-register at magpalit ng status ng mga empleyado. Mr. President, the informal business sector is the means of livelihood of most of our people. These enterprises that merely sell goods that they personally produce to meet their family needs become the victim of regulation that was meant for big companies. And that is why we have crafted so many laws to address the ease of doing business for small businesses. Magna Carta for MSMEs, Barangay Micro Business Enterprise Law, Negosyo Center Act, among others. Itong Negosyo Center Act, maganda ito dahil nagkaroon ng one-stop shop sa mga LGU para sa small businesses upang makapag-comply sila sa iba't ibang business regulations. Kulang sa assistance ang ating mga maliliit na mamamayan na itinatawid lang ang kanilang munting negosyo. Mr. President, recently there is so much unfairness in the way the power is being exercised by public officials and government entities. I hope they remember that if the law does not distinguish, neither should they when it comes to implementing the law. Be consistent, be fair. I hope to be able to take these matters up in the Labor Committee as these concerns affect our laborers. Thank you, Mr. President, and my dear colleagues.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that we refer the speech of our distinguished colleague, Senator Rafi Tulfo, to the Committee on Labor and Employment and Human Resource Development.
So referred to Committee on Labor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Another colleague of ours would like to avail of the privilege hour, Mr. President. May we recognize our distinguished colleague, Senator Cayetano.
Senator Pia Cayetano is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise on a matter of privilege today on a topic that is very personal to me, but I know also personal to many of our colleagues here who have joined me in this battle. Recently, Mr. President, I think this was late last week, a group of public health advocates pressed lawmakers to impose an absolute ban on the sale of electronic cigarettes, vapes, and in other words, alternative cigarettes. This has been a call that they have been making. I would say this push for a ban has been making its rounds in the last 6 months, maybe in the last year, because all over Southeast Asia, many of our neighbors have banned the use of these products. Many of our colleagues will also recall that in the last Congress, I have stood up and showed photos of the deceptive sales tactics being implemented by the industry, wherein they are using all these cute cartoon figures that are known to our children on the packaging of these vapes. Many of our colleagues have stood up and joined me in their concern because we have children. We're very concerned about the youth who are attracted to these products that are making, particularly because they are really being marketed to the children. So I rise today, Mr. President, to share some more figures. Based on a study of the DOST Food and Nutrition Research Institute, the prevalence of e-cigarette smoking among adolescents aged 10 to 19 increased to 0.8% in 2015. This is less than 1% to 39.3, almost 40% in 2023. This is a crazy increase in statistics, Mr. President. The industry, and I'd like to make clear that the big brands are also owned by the tobacco industry. The tobacco industry would like us to believe that vapes and all these alternative products are safer for us. That has been their battle cry. And there is also a research that has shown that pinaniwalaan na ng mga Pilipino. Nag-shift ang ibang naninigarilyo, nag-shift sila sa cigarettes, or hindi sila istrikto sa mga teenagers na anak nila dahil nga ay safer pala yan. It is not safer, Mr. President. So that is the big problem that we have right now. I will repeat figures that I have time and again shared with all of you. In the United States, the US FDA rejected 55,000 flavored e-cigarettes due to lack of evidence that they have a benefit to adult smokers, sufficient enough to overcome the public health threat posed by the alarming level of youth use of such products. 55,000 flavors ang na-reject. Can you imagine that? And I will repeat, up to this day, hindi tayo nagtetest. Mula ng araw na pinasa natin, yung vape law na yan, hindi pa rin nagtetest. The vape law gave the DTI the power to test and to regulate. They're not doing their job. They are not testing and regulating. They do not have any capacity. They do not have the equipment. They do not have the skilled manpower. They are not doing it. And yet here we are, we allow this to happen, and we have the chance to correct this. I have filed a bill that will remove the jurisdiction from DTI back to FDA. Yes, I know there's probably no one here that is in love with the services that come out of FDA, but if you look at the professionals they have there, they have the professionals, and it is their mandate. It is not the mandate of DTI. So yan, walang nagre-regulate, and yet the US, kaya nilang mag-ban ng 55,000 flavors, pero sa Pilipinas, wala tayong pakialam. So siguro dito, we have double the amount circulating and being ingested by our children. Imagine the United States says, there is no evidence that there is any benefit to allowing flavors for the youth. Kasi ang sasabihin ng ibang matanda, kasi mas okay to, may mga flavors kami, hindi na kami naninigarilyo. Yes, but the danger to exposing this to the youth goes on. And in the US, they decided they will not expose the youth to this. But don't get me wrong, they have a huge vape problem because despite regulating these flavors, they're still selling it. And so, you look at Southeast Asia, wow, 8 countries have banned it, Mr. President. 8 countries, and I will name these countries. These are Brunei, Cambodia, Laos, Singapore, Thailand, Timor-Leste, and Vietnam. And the latest to join that group is Myanmar. And that's why you have health advocates who are now saying, Philippine lawmakers, speak up. Pass a law that will also ban this. So a little bit of history, my dear colleagues. In 2021, former Senator Ralph Recto filed and sponsored Senate Bill number 2239. This is the Vaporized Nicotine Products Regulation Act, otherwise called referred to the vape bill. We had a period of interpellation for months after that, and on December 16, 2021, this vape bill was approved on third reading. There were only 2 senators who voted against it, myself and Senator Pangilinan. Mr. President, I fought against this bill so hardly because it gives the impression that it is regulating the industry, and yet what it was doing was liberalizing the sale of vape products. From the bill that I proposed, where it would be, the age of access would be 21, they lowered it to 18. Sorry, let me correct myself. The existing law, which was the sin tax law, provided the age of access at 21 years of age. This vape bill reduced the age to 18. So gusto niya, 18 pa lang, sige, mag-vape ka na. Nakapasa na tayo ng batas na sinabing sa 21 pa kasi nga very vulnerable itong mga young people. Let's allow them to make that decision to try this vape pag medyo 21 na. Tapos binabaan natin, ginawa natin 18. And then, we said that the jurisdiction to regulate is with the FDA. That is also in the sin tax law. Tinanggal yon, nilipat sa DTI. And I have already explained that DTI has done nothing about this. Finally, flavors. We had a total ban on flavors. We only allowed the regular, whatever cigarette tastes like, so tobacco flavor, and pinayagan natin doon menthol. That's it. Comes this vape bill, pinayagan na yung iba-ibang flavors. O ano nangyari? Ayan na, from Hello Kitty to name your other favorite character, nandyan lahat yan on the packaging of the vape products. So, this is the result. Almost 40% of our youth are somehow involved in vapes from the age of 10 to 19. But let me go on, Mr. President. I think it is today, there was an editorial that, and let me just read a portion of it. I just want to correct the record, Mr. President. There's an editorial that states that it's an editorial that basically criticizes government for liberalizing the vaping industry despite the strong opposition of health experts. And the editorial goes on to say, to express how our youth are exposed to the addiction and fatal lung disease, all of which are supported by the health advocates. But there's just one portion that I'd like to clarify, set the record straight, Mr. President. It also goes on to explain the changes that were made in the vape law versus the sin tax law that I've also explained, and I thank the editorial team for sharing this information. But I'd like to correct this. It goes on here to say that former President Duterte, who had banned smoking in public places nationwide, and that is a fact, gave in to the tobacco lobby and signed the bill which both chambers of Congress had passed. So that's incorrect, Mr. President, because that is something that I was watching very carefully. After we passed the vape bill, when both passes, the bicameral conference committee was held on January 26, 2022. Please note that was an election year. Then on March 30, the Senate received a letter from Secretary General of the House of Representatives, Mark Leandro Mendoza, and attached to the letter were the 9 enrolled copies of the consolidated version of the vape bill for signature of our Senate Secretary, Myra Villarica, and the Senate President, March 30, 2022. Then on May 30, 2022, the Senate sent a letter to Speaker Lord Velasco, returning the 8 enrolled copies for its transmission to the Office of the President. The enrolled copies, as following the procedure, were signed by the Senate President and the Senate Secretary. May 30, 2022, na-transmit na yan ng Senate sa House. Almost 1 month later, June 2023, this representation, together with health advocates, conducted a press conference and exposed that the vape bill was still pending in the House of Representatives. Hindi gumagalaw. Nandun lang sa House. Nandun lang. June 24, the next day, the enrolled bill was transmitted to the Office of the President 5 months after its passage and barely 3 working days before the end of the former President Duterte's term. Inantay. 5 buwan. 5 buwan, nakabinbin. 3 working days before former President Duterte's term ended, doon niya natanggap. Walang action si President Duterte, to be fair. So paki-clarify na lang kasi let's report these things correctly. So 3 days. So hindi inaksyonan yun ni President Duterte, and the new term on June 30, the term of the new president, our current president, President Marcos, started June 30. On July 20 days later, this representation again held a press conference along with my brother, Senator Alan Cayetano. He joined me and with health advocates, and we called on President Marcos to veto the vape bill kasi napunta na sa kanya kasi siya na presidente. Hindi niya vinito. So on July 25, 2022, the enrolled bill lapsed into law and became RA 11900 or the Vaporized Nicotine Products Regulation Act. So I'm just clarifying that fact because I think we should all be responsible for our actions. So if I voted for something, I should be responsible for it. If I didn't vote for something, I'll be responsible for it. So former President PRD did not pass it naman. Hindi niya 3 days nga lang mag-expire na yung term niya, dun lang binigay. And I feel like this is just me, this is just my opinion, but something happened there. 5 months, hindi pinadala. Tas pinadala 3 days before. And I know how the tobacco industry works. That's why am I not surprised? So here we are today, Mr. President. I know none of these tobacco bills are priority bills, but I ask my dear colleagues, join me in making this a priority. This is eating at the health of our youth. Lahat na ginawa natin kanina, our chairperson of the Committee on Health, and in fairness, how many bills has she sponsored? How many bills has she heard addressing health issues of the nation? So many of our colleagues will stand up and to interpolate and to amend, and I think we're doing a good job. But let's not turn our back on this pressing issue. There's a strong lobby. Let's do the right thing. Let's stand up and decide. Are we going to join our colleagues in a total ban? The bills I filed, by the way, which came after the vape bill, the vape bill became the vape law, were returning the jurisdiction to FDA, prohibiting sales to persons below 21, banning the different flavors, banning the sale in school areas because now they also we are actually selling just 100 meters. 100 meters, dun lang yun. Ang dali-daling takbuhin ng bata yun, yung 100 meters from their school. So there's so much we can do, including the discussion on the ban. So that is the gist of my privileged speech, Mr. President. There are bills out there, and if this can be heard, if any of these bills can be heard, then we can start the discussion on how we want to tackle this epidemic, because it is a vape epidemic, Mr. President. Thank you very much.
Senator Francis Pangilinan is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would the lady senator from Taguig be willing to answer
Yes,
a few
Mr.
questions?
President, very
Yes.
willingly.
Congratulations to Senator Cayetano for this privileged speech. It is a concern. If I recall correctly, I voted with Senator
You did.
Cayetano.
And I announced it that it's just you and I who voted against it on the third reading.
Yes. And therefore, it is a concern of this representation. What is the industry? How much is the vape industry in the Philippines, Madam President? Would the good senator know?
I can give you to that, Mr. President. I'll ask my staff for the numbers. But while I'm waiting for the numbers, let me expound on that topic. That, as I mentioned, the big brands are owned by tobacco companies.
Yes.
And then the position that these big tobacco companies will take is that they are protecting the health of the Filipinos because vape is a safer product, which is not true. There is no proof that it is safer. And then there is also this issue that they're raising about the loss of revenues due to the illicit trade, which is happening. I do not doubt that exists. But the answer there, because it is already being discussed in the House, I believe, I'm not really sure of the status, to revisit the sin tax that we impose.
Yes.
And medyo malawak na yung topic. I didn't include it in my speech, but this now, in response to your Honor's question, is part of the whole issue because the industry will claim that they are losing money to illicit trade and that they are less revenue is being transmitted to the government and therefore let us reduce the sin tax. Medyo nagkamali ng konti dun sa logic, but let me just check with my staff.
Yes,
if we're ready.
while that is being checked,
Go ahead.
yes, the good senator mentioned that it is not correct to say that this is safer than cigarette smoking. I recall those debates, and that the discussion then was that yes, vaping is less toxic or a better alternative to smoking. And the lady senator just mentioned that it is not true.
It's not.
You know, there's so much disinformation out there. What is the latest research and data regarding the ill effects? Is it worse than vaping? Because I get many different answers. It depends. Some doctors say it depends on the the content of the vape device. So there are a lot of discussions saying it is worse, but it depends. What is the science?
I would
behind
love to address that, Mr. President. So first of all, what the tobacco industry does is they hold conferences for doctors. We banned that in the bill that we proposed, in the version that we proposed, and that is the one good thing that was carried in the vape law. Bawal naman yan. So instead, what they did was, and I know for a fact because it was held in BGC, so na-trace ko to through my Taguig connections, na they had a conference with dentists. So dentists naman yung tinarget nila. So I'm like, wait, ano bang sinulat natin sa batas? Sinabi ba natin doctors? So dentists, they excluded, but they have these ways of going through all, their tentacles are wide and long-reaching. We found, I saw a copy of the program. They really had foreign doctors who will speak to whatever crowd is willing to listen to them to advocate their position. And I've heard it, I've listened to all, but the fact remains, as a doctor, as a health provider, you err on the side of safety.
Yes.
You do not promote something that is uncertain. So
Yes.
to me, dun pa lang, delikado yung ginagawa nung mga nagpo-promote niyan. Secondly, there are what they called EVALIs, yung deaths from vaping. And we have a confirmed case in the Philippines already. There's probably more, but as you know, the data in the Philippines is not easily available as it is in, let's say, the US. Yung reporting systems natin are not as reliable, but there are deaths from vaping. So clearly, this is not a simple health issue. And His Honor is correct in pointing out that it depends what's in there. That's the whole point. Because, as I said, in the US, because of their sophisticated system, they were able to ban 55,000 flavors because there's no proven health benefit. We're not even going through the process. So can you just imagine the quality of ingredients that are in the vapes being sold on the streets?
Yes.
And because kulang din tayo sa regulation, I randomly will see in any small street, Dr. Healthy Vapes. Mga ganun yung mga pangalan. Healthy vaping. Like,
Yes. It's an oxymoron.
It's an oxymoron. So definitely, Mr. President, there is so much more to be done. And I think that is why these Southeast Asian countries banned.
Yes.
Kasi ang hirap kalabanin. Ang daming nilang tentacles, ang dami nilang paraan. So it's just simpler
Well, you
for them
mentioned
to ban.
Southeast Asia. I understand Singapore has banned it.
Yes.
But
yes.
this is also banned in other ASEAN countries
Yes,
or
Mr. President.
regulated?
Myanmar, Brunei, Cambodia, Laos, Singapore, Thailand. Thailand
Yes.
is quite very open-minded, di ba? They're very liberal.
Yes.
Sila nga yung may marijuana eh, di ba?
Yes.
And yet, think about it. They allowed marijuana, although they backtracked and are regulating a bit, but it's still allowed. But they banned vapes. And then Timor-Leste and Vietnam. And I happened to travel to probably Singapore. Well, it must have been Thailand, no? Because I was there for the Southeast Asian Games. They really tell you sa airline pa lang na banned ang vapes dito. Huwag kayong magpasok. Do not
Yes.
try to bring it in because it is illegal here. O, and dami naman Pilipinong pumupunta doon. So, kaya pa nilang palang tumigil.
Yes,
Pero, dito gagawin nila. So, again, the old adage, di ba? Bakit nasusunod natin yung mga rules pag nandun tayo, pero dito, we don't. Mr. President, I'll go back to your question earlier about the global e-cigarette or vape market. Worldwide, it is valued at US 27 to 35 billion pesos as of dollars. US 27 to 35 billion dollars as of 2024. And then the Philippine market is valued at US 113.6 million dollars in 2023. But for the Philippines alone, it is projected to reach $345 million. So times 3 in 2030. So 4 years from now, they expect that market to grow
That'll be
times
about
3. 113
15
to
billion pesos.
345. So that's really sad,
Yes.
Mr. President. I would be so happy if this was the agricultural market, wouldn't you?
Yes.
Rice production, vegetable production, chicken production. But we're talking about the product that is not good for youth or adults. It's not good for us.
Is it correct? I caught it somewhere that the Secretary of Trade mentioned or was publicly quoted as saying she is against vaping. Is that right?
I think I recall that I chatted with her when she was newly appointed, and I made my position very clear. So I would be happy. I can't recall for sure,
Yes.
but I wouldn't be surprised if she did say that, because I do recall that she was expressed concern naman when we talked. I don't really recall what her official statements were, but nothing's being done. Usually every budget I bring this up, and wala silang means, and they
Yes.
don't really bother because
There are other concerns.
they have other concerns. It's obviously not their priority. And like I said, they don't have the systems in place. They don't have the manpower. It's not even their mandate. I feel like, what case do you file against an agency that takes upon itself a task that is not within their mandate, but by law, it was given to them? So,
Yeah, I remember the debates. that
Exactly.
it should not be with the Department of Trade. It should be with the Department of Health.
Exactly,
and
Mr.
the
President.
FDA.
Yes.
Yes. Well, we'd like to thank the good senator, and we place on record that she has our full support, and we look forward to being able to bring the measure on the floor for debates.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
President.
Mr. President. Thank you, Majority.
Thank you, Mr.
Majority
President.
Leader.
Mr. President, move that we refer may we recognize our distinguished Deputy Majority.
Senator Risa Ontiveros recognized.
Salamat po, Mr. President. I heard the good gentlewoman from Taguig and Pateros's privileged speech. I thank her for the affirmation of the continuing work of the Committee on Health. And I would just like to make it of record that we will agenda her bill, to hear her bill during the next hearing. Naka-waitlist lang po.
Oh, thank you.
Ngayon ang komite for a room next week, Mr. President.
That's amazing,
Salamat po,
Mr. President. Thank you
and
very
to the
much.
good gentlewoman.
So with that, Mr. President, we already know where this speech is going to be referred to. No, it's okay. We're going to refer it, Mr. President. No. We move to refer it, Mr. President, to the Committee on Health and Demography, Mr. President, for immediate action by the chairperson.
So referred to the Committee on Health.
Thank you very much. We thank also the
Go ahead.
sponsor of the privileged speech. Mr. President, I move that we transfer from the calendar of ordinary business to special order Senate Bill number 1899 and the committee report number 32. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? 1899 is transferred.
May we consider Senate Bill number 1899 and ask the Secretary to read the title of the measure. Sponsor.
Any objection? Hearing none, consideration of 1899 is in order. The Secretary will read the title of the measure.
Anak allowing the Department of Education the flexibility to determine the pedagogical approaches to be implemented in the basic educational curriculum, amending for the purpose Section 5 of Public Act Number 10533 or the Enhanced Basic Education Act of 2013.
Mr. President, we recognize the sponsor, our distinguished colleague, Senator Bam Aquino.
Senator Bam Aquino is recognized to sponsor the measure.
Yes, Mr. President, dear colleagues, magandang gabi sa inyong lahat. mga kababayan at kapwa ko Pilipino, magandang gabi po. The Committee on Basic Education is pleased to present Senate Bill number 1899 under Committee Report number 32, otherwise known as the Curriculum Flexibility under the Enhanced Basic Education Act. Nais po nating pasalamatan ang EDCOM 2 at ang ating counterpart sa EDCOM, my co-chair, Representative Roman Romulo, para po sa panukalang ito. Dahil po sa kanilang dedikasyon, ngayon po naaaksyonan na po natin ang isang reforma na makakatulong sa mga estudyante at gurong Pilipino. Spiral progression was instituted to address discontinuity and fragmentation in the pre-K-12 curriculum. This model was meant to ensure long-term retention by repeatedly engaging learners with core concepts with increasing complexity over time, hence the term spiral progression. However, Mr. President, this methodology was legislated alongside the Enhanced Basic Education Act. According to EDCOM 2 and according to our own consultations with teachers, nakita ho namin how this rigidity of the legislated curriculum sequencing has been challenging to our students and teachers. In short, Mr. President, naging batas ang paggamit ng methodology na ito sa ating bansa. Nais natin, Mr. President, na magkaroon ng flexibility ang ating Department of Education sa curriculum na kanila pong ginagamit. Rather than mandating specific methodologies, binibigyan po natin ng espasyo ang DepEd na magkaroon ng flexibility sa kanilang paggamit ng curriculum. Mr. President, our proposed bill gives DepEd, school administrators, and teachers leeway in planning and adjusting the curriculum that will be implemented in every classroom. We will no longer include the requirement of spiral progression as the only way to teach our students. With this amendment, we will be legislating standards for our basic education curriculum rather than specific methodologies. Hindi po natin ibig sabihin na hindi nagagamitin ng spiral progression. In fact, Mr. President, it can still be used by our schools and by our teachers. Instead, the bill removes legal requirements to adhere to this certain method of teaching. This bill, Mr. President, provides flexibility to address the curriculum in the best and most relevant way possible to ensure that our students gain the mastery that they need to move on to the next grade level. Mr. President, ngayong taong ito, nabigyan natin ng pinakamataas na pondo sa edukasyon sa kasaysayan ng Pilipinas. That indeed, Mr. President, is an accomplishment by the Senate and Congress and by the Executive and by the DepEd. Ngayon po, kailangan masigurado na tuloy-tuloy yung reforma. Kailangan po tutukan natin ang lahat ng paraan para solusyonan ang krisis sa edukasyon, kabilang na po ang mga hamon sa curriculum design approach. Mr. President, mga kasama, inaasahan po natin na magkakaisa tayo para ipasa ang panukalang ito na tumutulong sa ating mga guro at estudyante. When we provide flexibility in our curriculum, we allow our teachers to do what they do best. This is a key step towards addressing our education crisis, and we hope, Mr. President, that with the passage of this measure, we begin the journey towards improving our students' proficiency and literacy. Maraming salamat, Mr. President, and thank you, dear colleagues. This is a one-page bill. This is a two-page bill, Mr. President. We hope that we can come together and support this bill at the soonest possible time. Maraming salamat po, Mr. President and dear colleagues.
Sir Joel. May we recognize also our distinguished colleague, Senator Joel Villanueva.
Senator Joel Villanueva is recognized.
Mr. President, as much as we would like to deliver our co-sponsorship speech, as we are one of the co-authors and co-sponsor of the measure, we just like to put on record, Mr. President, our sincerest thanks and gratitude to our dear chairperson of the Senate Committee on Basic Education, our fellow EDCOM 2 Commissioner, Senator Bam Aquino, for making this measure one of his priorities. May I just be allowed, Mr. President, to just insert into the records our co-sponsorship speech. Thank you, Mr. President.
So inserted into the records.
Mr. President.
May we recognize Senator
Senator Pia Cayetano is recognized.
Mr. President, I also have a speech, but given that the sponsor emphasized it's a one-page speech, it's a one-page bill, my speech is longer than one page. I will also insert it into the record, Mr. President. And I'd just like to express my gratitude to the sponsor for taking up this measure. Thank you.
Thank you, Majority Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, to allow our colleagues some time to study the measure, yes, Senator Sherwin Gatchalian would like to also deliver his sponsorship speech. I hope it's also one page, because anyway, the bill is one page.
Senator Sherwin Gatchalian is
Just kidding, Mr.
recognized.
President. We recognize the good.
Thank you, Majority Leader. Sorry for interrupting you. I also will give a co-sponsorship speech. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise today to co-sponsor an act allowing the Department of Education the flexibility to determine pedagogical approaches to be implemented in the basic education curriculum, amending for the purpose Section 5 of Republic Act Number 10533 or the Enhanced Basic Education Act of 2013. The spiral progression approach is a well-intentioned curriculum framework that is meant to make learning continuous, connected, and progressively deeper as learners move up. At its core, the idea is simple. Concepts are introduced early and revisited repeatedly in later grades. Each time a concept is revisited, it is developed and given greater depth. Difficulty increases incrementally over time. Learners progress by building on earlier learning, with the goal being mastery of the subject matter. But as data would reveal, implementation has been far from straightforward. A 2020 study by the Assessment, Curriculum, and Technology Research Center observed that teachers did not have adequate time to teach all the competencies under the intended K-12 curriculum. The results of the study showed that less than 1/3 of the teachers reported having enough time to cover all learning competencies. Dahil sa kakulangan sa oras, hindi lubos na natuturo lahat ng kinakailangang competencies. Malaki ang nagiging negatibong epekto nito sa ating mga mag-aaral. Umaakyat sila sa susunod na baitang nang hindi pa ganap na nahuhubog ang kanilang pundasyon para maintindihan ang mga susunod at mas mahirap na leksyon. The ACTRC study also found that in levels grade 6 and above, most learners are not grade ready because they failed to master the learning competencies of the previous level. In pre-grade 9 chemistry, only 13% of learners were grade ready. In pre-grade 10 chemistry, the result is even lower at 11%. Hindi natin pwedeng hayaan ang ganitong mga pangyayari. Malinaw sa datos at sa karanasan ng ating mga guro na kailangan maging bukas at flexible ang ating mga curriculum para hindi natatali ang ating mga paaralan sa iisang uri ng pagtuturo. This amendatory bill introduces the necessary flexibility. Section 5 mandates that curriculum for basic education will employ the approach deemed most effective by the Department of Education to ensure mastery of knowledge and skills for each level. This call to flexibility was echoed in the final report of the Second Congressional Commission on Education. One of its recommendations for developing the functional literacy of early learners is to remove the mandatory application of spiral progression in basic education in order to enable flexibility and localized instruction. A periodic review every 5 years monitors learner progress and curriculum responsiveness. This ensures that education remains dynamic, appropriate to context, and learner-centered. This flexibility is especially critical today as government has committed unprecedented resources to education. Mr. President, with our historic education budget of 1.3 trillion pesos, we stand on the threshold of great change for the future of our learners and our country. For this budget to be put to its best use, key reforms in the way education is delivered must follow. The road to education reform is long, but this measure is a critical step in the right direction. It empowers teachers to respond to specific needs and realities of their classes, which will ensure that no learner is left behind. Before I end, I would like to thank the sponsor of this bill, Senator Bam Aquino, for his commitment to improving the quality of education in our country. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much,
Majority
Mr.
Leader.
President. Mr. President, we'll allow our colleagues to study the measure. We move to suspend consideration of the measure.
Any objection? Hearing none, consideration of the measure suspended.
Mr. President, I move that we transfer from the calendar of ordinary business to special order Senate Bill number 1910 under Committee Report number 37.
Any objection? Hearing none, consideration is transferred.
I move that
The
we-
bill is transferred.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we consider Senate Bill number 1910 and ask the Secretary to read the title of the measure.
Hearing no objection, consideration is in order. The Secretary will read the title of the measure.
And now providing for a free financial education to overseas Filipino workers and their families.
May we recognize the sponsor, Mr. President, no other than our distinguished Chairman of the Committee on Migrant Workers and Labor, Senator Raffy Tulfo.
Senator Raffy Tulfo is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon, Mr. President, or good evening, Mr. President, my esteemed colleagues. Before I proceed with my sponsorship speech, I would like to express my deepest concern over the plight of our OFWs who are now caught in the middle of this major conflict in the Middle East. Lubos tayo nag-aalala sa kanilang kaligtasan at ipinagdadasal natin na sana'y matapos na ito sa lalong madaling panahon. Kahapon, I took the liberty of meeting online with the DMW, OWA, DFA, and other concerned offices, and they assured us that our government is exhausting all resources to ensure their safety and security. Gayunpaman, if the situation worsens at mapupunta tayo sa mandatory repatriation, gusto natin may uwi lahat ng ating OFWs na hindi lang ligtas, ngunit mayroon pa ring pagkukunang pagbalik dito sa Pilipinas. There is an urgent need to protect not only their physical well-being, but also their economic well-being. If there's one lesson that we learn from this war in the Middle East, it is the fact that we must always save some for the rainy days, ika nga. Having said that, Mr. President and esteemed colleagues, I have the honor to sponsor today proposed bill number 1910 under Committee Report number 37, or the Free OFW Financial Education Act. This is a measure that seeks to protect, empower, and uplift the very people we proudly call today as our modern-day heroes. Maliban sa giyera at mga kalamidad na maaaring magdulot ng kawalan ng ipon at trabaho, ilang beses na rin tayong nakatanggap ng reklamo patungkol sa mga financial scams na nabibiktima ang ating mga OFWs. These scams come in different forms: employment or illegal recruitment scams, love scams, cryptocurrency investments, mutual funds, easy money or fly-by-night investments, and pyramiding scams, among other things.
Sa mga scam sa social media, marami sa mga OFWs natin, even while they're still abroad, even before sila ay babalik ng Pilipinas, sila ay naluloko na scam. In some cases, pagbalik nila, wala na silang pera, ubos na.
Inengganyo niya po kami kasi for expansion daw po siya ng capital ng pinaka-business po. Then nangako din po siya ng malaking interest po.
40% interest po.
40%.
Po, monthly po.
Wala kang pera-pera ngayon.
Wala. Nag-uwi ako, sir, kahapon. Sa totoo lang, hindi naman ako sinungaling na tao. 200 lang gutom. Nagutom ako sa airport.
Dumiretso si Mamata from the airport, diretso dito.
Oh, walang-wala nga ako mga pasalubong. Wala. Damit ko.
Masaya maleta.
Ang damit ko, sir, ano lang yun, mga lumang gamit ko sa Jada.
Wala ka man ng pasalubong.
Wala, kahit tingkayin ko pa yung bag ko, wala kahit isang pirasong biskwit o isang pirasong candy, wala.
Wala kayo naipon, ma'am.
Wala, sir, kasi may ginastusan ako, hindi nga nakatapos ng pag-aral yung anak ko.
Kaya nga yan sinasabi ko hopefully maging batas na po yung financial literacy. Tuturuan po kayo, tutulungan din kayo ng gobyerno kung papaano po yung perang pinaghirapan nyo sa abroad, makakaipon kayo, pagbalik mo rito, meron kayong pera.
Ginamit niya yung SK chairman yung position para mahikayat akong mag-invest.
300,000 po.
More or less, sir. Anon po. Investment po, sir, sa manukan at saka sa baboy.
Nagkaroon kasi ako ng problema ko sa Hong Kong. Bali, naging doble-doble na yung problema ko, sir.
Tsaka hindi ko na kaya yung mga problema ko dahil nagkapatong-patong na. Depressed na po ako sa buhay ko, sir. Dahil wala akong trabaho sa Hong Kong. Kahit mahirap lang kami, sir. Marunong kami lumaban ng patas.
Yung pinangarap ko, naging ganito na lang. Sayang.
OFW ako, gusto ko rin kumbaga nagalit ako, aaminin ko, maganda yung offer mo eh, gusto ko rin umuwi ng Pilipinas. Sabi ko, baka ito rin pagkakataon ko. Dahil sabi ko sa'yo nung una, di ba, huwag mo lolokohin, pera ko to para sa anak ko. 9 years ako hindi umuwi ng Pilipinas, para lang mapag-ipunan ko ang edukasyon ng anak ko. 9 years, alam mo yung sinabi ko sa'yo, nagkamakaawa ko sa'yo. Ibalik mo lang yung puhunan ko, kahit walang tubo. 9 years, Joanne, hindi ko nakita ang anak ko.
Nakakalungkot na ang bawat pawis, pagod at hirap ng ating mga OFWs ay napupunta lamang sa mga scammers. Kadalasan, nababaon pa sila sa utang at nakukulong. The truth is, many OFWs return home with very little savings, minimal investments, and no long-term financial security. Like I said, many of them fall victims to scams, fraudulent investment schemes, excessive recruitment fees, and poor financial decision made without proper guidance. A survey conducted by the Philippine Statistics Authority on OFWs revealed that the bulk of their remittances go to personal consumption, or 47.4%, followed by savings, which comprise to 24.8%, while investment in property, business venture, and financial instruments account for the remaining 12.6%. In other words, only a meager portion of their money is saved or invested, which sadly, most often than not, go to the hands of fraudsters and scammers. To address this problem, it is therefore imperative to institutionalize measures that will help our OFWs develop financial responsibility and independence. The government must promote financial literacy to help future-proof OFWs and their dependents. Financial literacy will empower our migrant workers to avoid predatory lending, invest in legitimate enterprise, build emergency funds, secure insurance and retirement plans, and to start business upon returning home. Specifically, this legislative measure will, number one, mandate all OFWs to undergo more extensive and comprehensive financial literacy orientation seminars, which will be integrated in their pre-departure orientation seminar, or PDOS, as well as in their post-arrival training seminars, or PATS. These trainings will also be incorporated in pre-migration orientation seminars, or PMOS, OFW family and children's learning sessions, and other similar activities. Number two, place the DMW as the lead implementing agency in coordination with the Department of Finance, the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, OWA, the DICT, DILG, the SEC, and other pertinent banking institutions, and most importantly, number three, provide that these mandatory financial literacy trainings and continuing education shall be free of charge. Currently, the DMW is implementing the Pinansyal na Talino at Kaalaman, or PITAKA program, in coordination with the OWA, Bangko Sentral, and BDO Foundation, whereby financial literacy videos are disseminated online via YouTube and Facebook. Dito po, tinuturuan sila kung paano mag-impok, magkaroon ng tamang pananaw sa pag-iimpok at mag-invest ng kanilang pera sa litimong pamamaraan. Mayroon din yung Financial Awareness Seminar and Small Business Management Training, or FAST SBMT. That includes skill training in setting up and developing a business. The Securities and Exchange Commission and the Philippine Stock Exchange, in partnership with the DMW, also conduct educational tours for OFWs to gain exposure to stock marketing, trading, investment funding, and scam prevention. In 2026, the DMW has also been aggressively expanding its partnership with private stakeholders to initiate other relevant programs that will financially empower our OFWs. Thus, this measure will ensure that these initiatives will be institutionalized at mabigyan ng sapat na pondo para tuloy-tuloy ang implementasyon ng mga programa. This is not just a bill about budgeting or saving. This is about dignity. Dignity for OFWs who have been remitting consistently over $30 billion annually, and these remittances fuel consumption, sustain communities, and stabilize our financial system. Ang batas na ito ay panigurado ng isang nurse mula Germany, yung engineer mula sa Japan, ang isang domestic helper mula sa Kuwait, at ang isang marino mula sa Indian Ocean ay uuwi na may bitbit na kwento ng sakripisyo at may pondong magsisimula ulit sa sariling bayan. Mr. President, my dear colleagues, I therefore urge each and every one of you to support the immediate passage of this measure, the Free OFW Financial Education Act. Let us give our modern-day heroes not only an opportunity to thrive overseas, but also the chance to financially grow and attain stability at home. Magandang gabi at maraming salamat po, Mr. President.
Majority Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And also to deliver the co-sponsorship speech, may we recognize our distinguished colleague, Senator Joel Villanueva.
Senator Joel Villanueva is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, distinguished Majority Leader. Mr. President, esteemed colleagues, this representation would like to thank, first of all, our dear colleague, the Chairperson of the Senate Committee on Migrant Workers, Senator Rafi Idol Tulfo, for sponsoring Senate Bill number 1910, otherwise known as the Free OFW Financial Education Act, which this representation is proud to have co-authored, Mr. President. We believe that this measure, together with the OFW Remittance Protection Act under Committee on Banks, which we also intend to sponsor this week, Mr. President, are complementary bills that share a common objective. This is to safeguard the hard-earned income of our OFWs and ensure their long-term financial security. When we sponsored the law, Mr. President, not too long ago in creating the Department of Migrant Workers during the 18th Congress, we envisioned financial literacy as an essential component of the reintegration program aimed at the mainstreaming and sustainable return of OFWs into Philippine society. This policy direction is explicitly provided under Section 3, letter I of RA number 11641, otherwise known as the DMW Act. Through this measure, Mr. President, our OFWs will be equipped with necessary knowledge and skills to properly manage their hard-earned income and make informed financial decisions. Gaya po ng sabi ng ating colleague, Senator Rafi Tulfo, yung mga remittances po remain a stable and significant source of financial support for Filipino households. However, Mr. President, it is equally important to examine how these remittances are utilized so that we can identify the critical areas where financial education is most needed. According to Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas Consumer Expectations Survey Report for the third quarter of 2025, 95.4% po of households receiving OFW remittances use these funds primarily for food and other household necessities. In contrast, only 39.3%, almost 40%, allocated remittances for savings, while a mere 7.7% invested these funds. Mr. President, kung mapapansin po natin, napakaliit po na porsyento lamang ng remittances ang napupunta doon sa savings at halos wala nga pong napupunta sa investments. Ito po ay dahil iniuuna ng ating mga kababayan ang pagtugon sa pang-araw-araw nilang pangangailangan ng kanilang mahal sa buhay. This representation firmly believes that our modern-day heroes deserve more than just admiration. They must be empowered to make sound financial decisions and be adequately protected from scammers, fraudsters, and other financial predators who seek to take advantage of their hard-earned income. Sa pamamagitan po ng panukalang batas na ito, binibigyan po natin ang ating mga OFW ng kaalaman, kakayahan at proteksyon upang mapangalagaan ang kanilang pinaghirapang kita at matiyak po natin ang mas matatag na kinabukasan para sa kanilang pamilya at mahal sa buhay. Again, Mr. President, in view of these considerations, we would respectfully urge our colleagues to support the swift passage of this measure. Muli, maraming salamat, Ginoong Pangulo, at pagpalain tayong lahat ng ating Panginoong Diyos.
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Majority Leader.
Mr. President, also to insert into the records their sponsorship speeches are Senator Ejercito, JV Ejercito, and Senator Jinggoy Estrada.
So inserted into the records.
Thank you, Mr. President. To allow our colleagues to study the measure further, we move to suspend consideration of the measure.
Hearing no objection, consideration of the measure is suspended.
Before I move to adjourn, maybe just to proceed with the reference of business. So that we can
Additional
take up
reference of business, the Secretary
Mr.
will
President.
proceed.
Additional reference of business. Resolution number 319. Resolution directing the Senate Committee on Foreign Relations to inquire in need of legislation the status, safety, and welfare of Filipinos in Middle Eastern states amid the escalating tensions, as well as the measures being taken for their protection by Senator Marcoleta.
Referred to the Committee on Foreign Relations and Migrant Workers.
320. Resolution congratulating commending Warren Wade Kasuga for being named absolute winner in the Natural Science category of the 7th Copernicus Olympiad in Houston, Texas by Senator Marcoleta.
Referred to the Committee on Rules.
321. Resolution for urgent measures to ensure the safety, protection, and repatriation readiness of overseas Filipino workers and Filipino nationals in countries affected by the February 28, 2020 United States, Israel strikes on Iran and subsequent regional military responses by Senator Aquino.
Referred to Committees on Foreign Relations and Migrant Workers.
322. Resolution directing the appropriate Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in need of legislation the potential economic and security impacts on the Philippines of the ongoing conflict involving the United States of America, Israel, and Iran, with the end in view of formulating responsive proactive policy measures by Senator Aaron.
To the Committees on Foreign Relations and Migrant Workers.
323. Resolution commending and congratulating Philippines for an outstanding victory at the 2026 Predator WPA 10-ball World Championship held at Westgate Resort and Casino in Las Vegas, Nevada, USA by Senator Go.
To the Committee on Rules.
324. Resolution directing the Committee on Agriculture, Food, and Agrarian Reform to investigate industrialization, the implementation of black tier of vessel monitoring measures with the Bureau of Fisheries, Aquatic Resources, and concerned agencies and mandated by the Philippine Fisheries Code, RA 8550, as amended by RA 10654 by Senator Anti-vaping.
To the Committee on Agriculture.
325. Resolution expressing the sense of the Senate urging the Philippine government to immediately implement measures for the protection and preparation of overseas Filipino workers amid escalating tensions in the Middle East, and adopt interventions to mitigate the certain economic impacts of the Philippine economy, introduced by Senators Pangilinan, Soto III, Lacson, Subiri,